The history of civilization is one of struggle against disease. Virus respects no borders. That is why we have attached great importance to international health cooperation from the outset. In the spirit of openness and transparency, we promptly notified the world about the outbreak and shared the genetic sequence of the virus. We have been working closely with WHO, invited international experts to join our ranks, and provided assistance and facilitation to foreign nationals in China. To date, confirmed cases outside China account for less than 1% of the world's total. It means that China has effectively curbed the spread of the outbreak beyond our borders. For that, we have made extraordinary efforts and a heavy sacrifice for global public health security. That said, China is not fighting alone. The international community has given us valuable moral and material support. This joint fight is strengthening the friendship between the Chinese people and the peoples across the world. Russia, Belarus, and the ROK swiftly delivered badly needed medical supplies to Wuhan through chartered flights. Pakistan, our ironclad brother, sent us virtually all the masks in its stock. At the peak of the outbreak, Prime Minister Hun Sen of Cambodia paid a special visit to Beijing to offer his staunch support for China. Through a specially made video, Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha of Thailand conveyed the message that Thailand and China are one family committed to fight the epidemic together. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa of Sri Lanka prayed for China at the Abhayarama Temple in Colombo alongside nearly 1 million Buddhists in his country. Italian President Sergio Mattarella visited a school with a large number of Chinese students and hosted a concert in the Corino Palace in support of China. In the toughest times of the fight, people around the world are standing firmly by our side. Japanese groups sent assistance supplies to China, attached with ancient Chinese poetic lines. "Fear not the want of armor, for mine is also yours to wear." A touching message of empathy from a close neighbor. In other parts of the world, Americans from all walks of life donated medical supplies. An Indonesian policeman sang the song "Go Wuhan." UK pupils performed a Chinese song "Fill the World with Love." The Burj Khalifa Tower in the UAE was lit up in red in support of China. And from this country and from this city, Bayern Munich sent his best wishes to China. In the face of danger, Philip Klein, a French doctor working in Wuhan, did not hesitate to stay and fought alongside the Chinese people. He said he kept a bottle of champagne to be popped open for celebrating the end of the epidemic. Maya Renzi Gururi, a Zimbabwe student who lived in Wuhan for 3 years, also chose to stay and signed up to be a volunteer. To date, leaders of more than 160 countries and international organizations have sent letters or messages to express their firm support. Political leaders around the world have spoken in public to cheer for Wuhan and cheer for China. The Chinese nation is a grateful nation. We will remember and hold dear every act of support. On behalf of the Chinese government, let me say a heartfelt thank you to all the countries, international organizations, and people who have supported China's ongoing fight against the epidemic.
Ladies and gentlemen, this sudden outbreak reminds us once again that we live in a time when traditional and non-traditional security issues are entwined, and when local issues easily go global, and vice versa. No country can prosper in isolation or meet all challenges on its own, as our interests are so closely integrated. The title of Munich Security Report 2020, Restlessness, reflects a perception of the world among some in Europe and the United States. But China's view is that as human society has entered the age of civilization, we must transcend the East-West divergence and the North-South divide to see our shared planet as a community for all. We must go beyond the ideological gap and accommodate historical and cultural differences to see the international community as one global family. In the era of globalization, we face the same challenges. We shoulder common responsibilities, and we have a shared future. This means we must set up an effective framework for multilateral cooperation to jointly tackle the myriad of challenges. It also points to the need for committing to multilateral cooperation whereby international affairs are truly discussed and decided by all involved. Many countries have proposed constructive ideas on building multilateralism. As President Xi pointed out, in promoting and enforcing multilateralism, our aim should be to safeguard peace and development for all and uphold fairness, justice, and mutual benefit. And the practice of multilateralism should be grounded on international law and widely recognized norms of international relations. This is China's considered answer to the question of how to put multilateralism into action in a globalized world. First, to uphold multilateralism, we should pursue shared development. Multilateralism does not stand for putting any country above others. Instead, it advocates the equal right to development shared by all countries. If the West enjoy lasting prosperity and progress, while the rest are mired in backwardness, multilateralism can never be truly implemented, and the common progress of humanity would be impossible to achieve. Fei Xiaotong, a renowned Chinese sociologist, envisioned a world in which countries treasure their own values, appreciate other cultures, and promote shared prosperity. In the globalized era, only when more countries get to develop can the international community be empowered, and can there be more partners in our joint response to challenges. As a big country with 5,000 years of civilization, China's modernization, which is being achieved through the hard work and wisdom of its people, represents an inevitable trend of history. Given its national conditions, China will not copy the Western model. Given its cultural traditions, China will not seek hegemony even when it grows in strength. What we have chosen is peaceful development of our own country and mutually beneficial cooperation with the world. Having led to remarkable success, the path of socialism with Chinese characteristics is brimming with vitality and embracing an even more promising future. The Communist Party of China represents the fundamental interest of all Chinese people, and its leadership is supported by the 1.4 billion people of China. China respects the choices of Western countries and will draw on the experience of developed countries to work for shared prosperity. Likewise, the West also needs to eschew the subconscious belief in the superiority of its civilization and abandon its prejudices and anxieties regarding China. It needs to respect the choices of the Chinese people and accept and welcome the development and rejuvenation of a major country in the East, one with a system different from the West. For China's development and rejuvenation is an important part of human progress, and it embodies the colorful diversity brought by multilateralism. Second, to uphold multilateralism, major countries should set a good example. Collaboration between major countries is instrumental to the success of multilateralism. In international and particularly in multilateral affairs, major countries play a key role and shoulder significant responsibilities. Therefore, they need to behave in a way that is consistent with their status. Instead of putting their own interest above those of others, they should care for the common interest of all countries. Instead of carving out spheres of influence, they should work for an open world. Instead of provoking confrontation, they should work together to maintain world peace and stability. China will further strengthen strategic coordination with Russia. Following the strategic guidance of our president, we will advance our comprehensive strategic partnership of coordination for a new era on all fronts and instill more positive energy into global security, stability, and strategic balance. China will work with the U.S. to find a way of promoting peaceful coexistence and mutually beneficial cooperation. We hope the U.S. side will embrace a more open and inclusive approach when viewing China's development. Will work with us to manage differences in a spirit of equality and mutual respect, and adhere to the principles of coordination, cooperation, and stability in bilateral ties. We should work together to keep China-U.S. relations along the right track. China will deepen cooperation with Europe across the board with a focus on upgrading China-EU relations, enhancing cooperation on green development and the digital economy, and expanding China-Central Eastern European country cooperation into more fields. As always, we support European integration. We support a united and strong Europe, and we support Europe's active role in multilateral affairs. Third, to uphold multilateralism, we should uphold international norms. Multilateralism is antithetical to unilateral moves. Instead, it supports greater democracy in international relations based on international rule of law and justice. The principles enshrined in the UN Charter, including respect for national sovereignty, peaceful resolution of disputes, and non-interference in internal affairs, are the bedrock of modern international law. As the first founding member of the UN to sign its charter, China has stayed true to the UN's founding aspirations and firmly defended the purposes of the Charter and international law. Proceeding from our commitment to national sovereignty, China has called for a Syrian-led, Syrian-owned approach for Syria and an Afghan-led, Afghan-owned solution for the Afghan issue. Proceeding from our commitment to non-interference, China has rejected unwarranted interference in its internal affairs on issues related to Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Xinjiang, and opposed the power politics of meddling in other countries' internal affairs. Proceeding from our commitment to the peaceful settlement of disputes, China has advocated a negotiated solution to the Korean Peninsula nuclear issue based on the simultaneous achievement of complete denuclearization and a lasting peace mechanism. In the same spirit, we endeavor to settle disputes in the South China Sea through dialogue and negotiation, and are working with ASEAN countries on a code of conduct to be observed by all relevant parties. Proceeding from our commitment to international fairness and justice, China has firmly stood with the Palestinian people and all the oppressed people in their call for justice. We oppose the strong bullying the weak, the big bullying the small, and unilateral sanctions or long-arm jurisdiction which find no ground in international law. We provided assistance to fellow developing countries to the best of our ability and without any political strings attached, and advanced South-South cooperation. The mission of China's foreign policy is to promote world peace and common development. It is rooted in international law and the basic norms governing international relations and will not be swayed by turns of events. We pursue no selfish interests. Our policy, which is stable and consistent, can stand the test of history and has won the trust of others. Fourth, to uphold multilateralism, we need to see the world as one community. The outbreak of the epidemic has once again reminded us that our futures are closely linked. Global governance and international coordination must be strengthened without any delay. On this front, President Xi put forward an important initiative of building a community with a shared future for mankind, calling on all countries to rise above differences in social system, history, culture, and development stage, jointly preserve Mother Earth, our common home, and work for a prosperous global village in which we all have a stake. The initiative of building a community with a shared future is inspired by the traditional Chinese philosophy that sees the world as one big family. It reflects profound thinking on the future of mankind and embodies a spirit of humanity. It points the way forward for global governance and represents the ultimate goal of multilateralism. It is a Chinese proposal on how to address today's challenges and has become an overarching goal of our major country diplomacy with Chinese characteristics. China is ready to work with all countries and make unremitting efforts to this end. Thank you.